Hi! Welcome back
Hi.
to Kai's
Hi, Kai's
Corner!
Corner.
Thanks for coming back to Kai's Corner! And I've had a few guests already on here, and every time I use what you say, because you, in the beginning of the last episode, you said, hello, welcome to Kai's Corner. And because I edited that so many times,
Yeah.
I remember how the inflections of what you used,
Oh,
what you
yeah?
said.
Is it a catchphrase now?
So now every time I had a guest since then, I say, hello, welcome to Kai's Corner.
I'm your muse.
Thank
Your
you. My
inspiration.
inspiration, actually. I wanted to talk a little bit about inspiration because we both felt inspired to. That's kind of like the topic that I wanted to cover today, which is moving abroad. And we both felt inspired to move abroad at some point within our lives. And yeah, I thought we could talk a little bit through that today, what our experience was like, some of our challenges, and what we did to make that happen. Because I think, yeah, people are curious. When I first said that I was moving to Germany, the first response that I got was, "Are you sure? Do you speak the language? Do you know anybody there? How are you gonna acclimate?" And I was like, "It's just another country. I travel all the time. So I know what I'm getting myself into." But then I got here and I didn't really know what I was getting myself
That's
into.
scary. It's really scary. I remember when I just visited Germany for the first time on holiday, and I remember stepping onto the train platform and I couldn't read anything on the board, and I was like, I don't know where to
One
go.
of my,
It's so vulnerable actually
yeah,
to be in that position.
but it's such a big learning process too. You learn so
Yeah.
much about yourself.
Yeah, because you're not used to the things that you take for granted, in your daily life that have become routine
Hmm.
or very comfortable.
Hmm.
And so when you're put in this situation where everything is very foreign, like actually foreign, and it feels very different, then it's just scary.
When you talk about the train platform, it reminded me of my experience on the train platform, which oddly was a positive one.
Mm.
So when I first arrived in Germany, I had 3 suitcases with me, and I landed in Munich. And during the day that I landed was August 12th, 2012. I still remember the date, and the the Stammstrecke, which is the main like S-Bahn line through the entire city, was closed. Like they
Mm.
weren't running the train line through the underground portion of the city center.
Mm.
And the apartment or the hotel that I had booked was right in the city center, so like right near the Rathaus, the Marienplatz.
Mm.
And I had 3 suitcases with me. So I didn't speak very good German at the time. So when I thought I was going through to get to the station, the S-Bahn did an entire
Track.
detour,
Oh, okay.
yeah, a detour through the city all the way to the last station at the end of the other side of the city. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get 3 suitcases by myself and a backpack to this hotel that I'm going to? And I remember the station that I had to get off had only stairs. So I was like, what am I?
I
It was
know.
so, I felt very alone and sad and just like challenged. That was my first learning experience and cultural shock
Hmm.
in a way, but very positive culture shock in another way, in that like 3 German people came out and they said, "Oh, do you need help with your suitcases? Because you're trying to go to the
That
other
is very
side."
rare. I have to say, you were very lucky that
Was
day.
I lucky?
Usually people do not offer.
No, they were so nice. Maybe it's Munich. I don't know, but
You-
it's not Berlin. Like
Mm.
Berlin, they would not. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say Munich. That was surprising too. But the fact that you had 3 suitcases, it's obviously that was a cry for help.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know that I would have offered my help, just some,
yeah.
but yeah, I was, yeah, kind of like, yeah, I needed help, and because I needed to go from one platform to the other platform to go back in the other direction, and then I also
Mm,
asked them like, why can't I get off at my stop? And they're like, oh, they made the announcement in the train, you probably just didn't understand, and the whole thing
mm-hmm.
was closed. So
Yeah.
yeah, I had to figure out. But that was my experience.
Well, fortunately, it was nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For the first, basically, even having that experience before even checking into my hotel.
But did you move for a job or did you move with no plans?
So I remember my decision for moving was to experience living abroad. And before I moved to Munich, I had already looked for a job. I was working for Google in San Francisco before I moved, and then within Google, they had like this internal career fair where they had representatives from offices all around the world
Mm.
come to share what they do in the offices. And there were people from Zurich, from Tokyo, from China. I don't remember all the locations that they had representatives from, but I ran into someone from Germany, and there was someone from the Munich office, and then I connected with them, and then yeah, they said like that was how I eventually got the job there. So I had a job going into moving abroad, and so that was, I think, very fortunate for me that Google basically sponsored my entire move. And
Were you already interested in the country, or was it
oh, that's what you mean.
more of
Okay,
a convenient thing?
so when I was in school in uni, I had interest in two languages. I studied Japanese. I was a Japanese language minor, but I also grew, because I was a music major, I grew a lot of interest in music, and I mean not music, in German, because a lot of great music comes from Germanic composers or German speaking composers, Mozart, Beethoven. But I think what really sparked the interest was Mahler,
Mm.
because all of his directions were written in German, and so it was really helpful to learn German. And I had a semester of German in school before I graduated. I don't know if I told you that. I don't remember it anyway.
I don't remember.
Yeah. So I learned a little bit of the language before.
So you were already interested. There was like
Yeah, there was
interest in
interest.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's kind of like you manifest it for yourself, because I didn't know that I wanted to move to Germany,
Mm.
but I learned the language because I had an interest in the culture and
Mm.
where the origins of a particular part of the culture comes from, which that being music.
Mm.
And so because I had an interest in music, then it kind of led me in a direction of I want to learn German, and then I continued to learn German in San Francisco at the Goethe Institute,
Mm.
and then I eventually networked with German people in the German office to then land a job there.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Mine was not as
Manifested.
manifested. Yeah, mine was very random actually. Well, originally I wanted to move to Amsterdam,
Ah,
and I always admire people who can move to a country without a plan. Like I admire people who say, "I want to try this city out, this country out. Let's go and see
yeah,
what develops."
yeah,
I'm less of a risk taker, so for me, it felt better to know that I could go for school,
yeah,
I could go for work.
yeah. To have a plan.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so and originally in Amsterdam, I wanted to study at the conservatory,
Hmm.
but in the end, it was not financially feasible.
Mm,
And then I wanted to go and study in London, um, big metropolitan. The arts are thriving,
yeah,
culture is thriving as well.
yeah.
But also, that turned out to be even less financially feasible
Was this all before you went to Northwestern or after?
before.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
So I did end up first going to Northwestern for my master's,
Hmm.
and but the drive to live and experience Europe had always stayed with me. So then I ended up finding this program in Germany, in Frankfurt, where you can study and they provide a monthly stipend. It's the American equivalent of an internship.
Yeah,
So I got into a year-long program there, and I thought, oh, I'll just spend a year there, see how it goes. I'll live out my European dream, and I'll come back. And 10 years later, I'm still here. I never thought I would be here
after 10 years.
after 10 years. It
Yeah,
was always the place that offered an opportunity that
yeah,
I took,
yeah,
because never in my life did I say, I want to live in Germany,
yeah.
And it was also the first time I really left the place I was born. I left my family.
Comfort zone.
Yeah, and it's been very challenging being in a foreign place, having to figure out the
Yeah,
bureaucracy and learn a new language and also deal with the loneliness and not feeling welcomed.
yeah,
But I think it's definitely helped me become stronger, and it's helped reshape my identity of who I am, and it's an experience that I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll stay here
Forever.
forever,
Yeah.
but for now it's working.
I think that that is true for both of us in a sense that we both had a desire to, because we both love travel.
Mhm.
And I think that was true basically because of CYS, really, like youth orchestra. Like
Yeah.
CYS was my first experience traveling abroad and really enjoying it.
Okay. Yeah.
And that awakened the desire to continue to travel. It was fun. It was fun.
Mm.
And yeah, well, maybe my parents also, but they really wanted me to learn about Chinese culture. So I went to China and Taiwan for because they wanted me to go. And I enjoyed those experiences too. But learning a culture that was not mine and experiencing those things that was not mine, that was an eye opener for me.
Mm.
And that really sparked the interest in travel. So maybe, I don't know, I don't want to project, but potentially that also for you too was like the desire to be in Europe. I remember you saying you really enjoyed the France trip with
Hmm.
CYS.
I mean, I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I
Yeah,
think also what I see in the media with movies, it gives a really romanticized view of what it means to live abroad and
yeah.
in Europe. So I think for me, the idea of something new and different, and the countries where you can sip wine and, I don't know, eat amazing cheese or listen
Croissants.
to, yeah, exactly, like, or listen to classical music, throughout the city.
Yeah,
It's just always been this romantic ideal version.
yeah,
And maybe I thought I would have a beautiful romantic life if I lived there.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it's a bit of having experienced that on tour
yeah.
and having this idea of what Europe is like portrayed through media that's
Mm.
kind of shaped one idea of what it means to live abroad, which is very different from the actual thing.
The
It's but
experience. Yeah,
that's life in general.
of
Nothing
course.
is given shiny and new and a wrapped present. You learn a lot of different sides to yourself and what it means to experience things in different parts of the world.
I would say similarly for me, I had just this idea of what my life would be like when I moved abroad, and that's why I wanted to move abroad.
Mm.
In a way, it was also to get away from something that I knew very well already, and I had felt like I wasn't getting anything out of anymore being in San Francisco.
Mm.
And this romanticized version of what my life would be like. I remember telling my mom when I decided I wanted to move abroad to Europe, I was like, yeah, I want to find the love of my life there. I remember telling her this.
Mm.
I still haven't necessarily done that. um, but yeah, I remember telling her that, and that was a big motivation for why I wanted to move abroad.
Mm. Mm.
Sure, I didn't get married, but I've learned a lot about myself along the way, about what I want in a relationship, about what I want in my life and a job.
Mm.
Being in Europe has taught me so much about work-life balance, how to feel. It made me feel liberated and to feel like I can express my true self, be myself, not feel as much shame for the things that I otherwise would feel shame for
Mm.
in San Francisco.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the depth and nuance of how you've changed and discovered things about yourself is going to be so much different than what you would have probably learned if you stayed in the States.
yeah,
Like, I'm sure you have changed
yeah,
in some way,
yeah,
but by doing it in a foreign place, in a new place, it's so much more enriching because it brings out different sides of yourself that you probably wouldn't have access to.
yeah,
But yeah, like, as especially since you're a life coach now, how would you what kind of advice or tips would you give someone who is considering a move
yeah,
like this or looking for something new, looking to be challenged?
yeah,
What are some things to consider before
yeah.
you make such a decision?
That's a good question. There's two things off the top of my mind that I want to mention. One is, I think, something that you and I both share, which is being fearless. Maybe we wouldn't describe ourselves as fearless at the time, but that's really ended up what we were doing. We were fearless and going into a space where we had a lot of unknowns and kind of facing challenges as they came up. I think both of us knew a little bit about the fact that we wanted that sense of security. So we moved abroad into a program or into a job where we knew we had some stability, but there were so many other unknowns, and being open to the idea of solving those unknown problems meant that we also have to be fearless and being open to those challenges. Yeah.
I would revise that. I
Yeah.
would not say I was fearless. I would say I had a lot of fears,
Mm-hmm.
but I found the courage to still go through it with it
I like
anyway.
that phrasing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how I experienced, because I had a lot of anxiety. I was stressed. I had a lot of worries about what to do when I was there, before, after.
Mm-hmm.
So the fears were there. But it's realizing that the only way you can change is by being scared, and still take that step
Yeah.
nevertheless.
Maybe fearless is not the appropriate word for what I'm trying to describe. And then in that case, I don't think having the courage, well, it is kind of what I'm describing, but it is realizing what those fears are and then facing those fears, right? Not being afraid to face those fears. And that's the only way you learn and grow anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we're saying kind of goes along together in the same way. So that would be my first take. The second thing that I would mention is both you and I maybe could have done more research. There's always more research you can do. I had visited Germany only one time before I came, before I even knew what the lifestyle would be like. So when I moved here, I didn't realize that supermarkets close at 8 p.m. I was like,
Mm,
that was a big culture shock to me. So a little bit of that knowledge could be helpful, but like those are minor things that you will learn when you're living there or after you have moved. Um, I think the research that is helpful to do is what are the opportunities, like what kind of work is available there if you are looking for work, or what kind of programs are there that you can apply for if it is a program that you're looking for, or a practicum, or like basically like an apprenticeship where you can learn and also do a job or something similar if you're going to Germany, for example. But what I did was something that I recommend to my current clients right now, which is a lot of informational interviews. And so I did something like 10 or 20 informational interviews about just talking to people about their jobs, what they do, what they enjoy about their jobs, what they wish like they would have something done something differently,
mm-hmm.
and or how do they describe the day in the life of their job, and then using those data points to assess, oh, where do I want to move, both potentially location wise or career wise. Is this a career direction that I want to take? And those informational interviews are not just good for getting information. Of course, they are, and that's the main purpose why you're doing those informational interviews. But it's also a networking opportunity. So as you're talking to these people, this is what I did at that career fair, which is I talked to people who were at the Munich office and I asked them, what's it like in the Munich office? What kind of projects do you work on? What is the Chrome team like, which was the team that I eventually landed in? And I learned a little bit about what my potential life could be, and then compared it to other teams that I was talking to say, oh, is this a direction that I want to go into?
Mm,
So not only am I taking the time to learn about potential roads I could take, and then eventually through that process also eliminating potential roads, but also building connections that could get me into a place that I want to be going.
mm-hmm.
So I think that is, you could call it research, but it's also networking.
Mm,
But it's informing yourself about the path that you potentially want to take or not want to take.
mm-hmm.
So those two things. I think moving abroad is a huge step, and for someone to want to do that, there's already a desire to put in as much effort as possible to
Yeah, yeah.
to try and get there. Like we both did it. So
But
yeah.
what makes it different from finding a job in your own country? because these informational interviews, I feel like it's something I would have done if I wanted to stay
Mm,
in the States and, get more information
hmm.
about a certain industry or a certain position.
Yeah.
Like, what is, I guess it's, I mean, of course, there are going to be similarities, but are there any extra steps someone can take to see if moving abroad is the right choice? Is there anything you can do additionally to see how to start off strong by already securing a position? If you don't have a position, would you still move anyway?
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of countries that do that support of job finding visa, or like you go somewhere and you may not have a job yet. It is easiest if you don't have a job to move somewhere and then find a job once you're there. You do
It's
have a,
easier.
it is easier.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, because you're more, what's the word? It's easier to hire you. They don't have to help you move. Like companies who are hiring
Mm,
people who are already in location don't have to help you move. They don't have to, well, they maybe have to help you with the visa process because you may be on a visitor visa or a tourist visa or a working holiday visa, whichever. Typically, it is easier to hire someone who is already in the location. If someone is having trouble finding a job abroad because they don't have the network or because the hurdles are too high, and you're at that point where you feel like kind of roads are at an end and you're ready to leave your job and you want to do some travel, and then you can first move without having the commitment of going to a job, experience what it is like living there already. And there's some flexibility there too, because then you can say, oh, actually, I moved. Maybe I want to explore other parts of this country that I want to live in. There's no like right or wrong way of doing it. To answer that question of what is the difference between moving from within the country and moving abroad, it is about how you can tap into your existing network and how broad you can take that existing network to be able to land something in advance.
mm,
Yeah, we could spend a long time talking about networking because that's a whole other skill, and getting referrals and all of that. And there is a way to get to a target network in a country that you're trying to target with your existing network if you don't know anyone in that country. So there are ways to get there, but I go back to what I say earlier, which is if you feel ready to make that leap and you're sure you want to live abroad, then being in that location already is helpful
mhm,
for both networking and scouting jobs and to land a job.
mm.
Yeah, because a lot of the hurdles that companies have to overcome are already done for you. Oh yeah, you've already done that
Yeah,
for yourself.
yeah.
Yeah,
Logistical.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to add to your experience living abroad, or last words of advice
I
to
mean,
people?
this is just coming from my own experience, but I do think in general living abroad would be great for anybody.
Oh, I
It
agree.
opens your perspective. You come to experience a lot of challenges, not only with trying to fit in within a new community or a new culture, but also to find your place in this world because it can feel quite lonely for sure.
Yeah,
And always keep in mind that there's the pros that come with the cons. Yes, moving abroad is great, and also there will be moments where it's hard as
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But I think overall, the growth that you get from it and the experiences you get from it is completely worth it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There's just things you will learn that you wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to learn. So
Mm.
I second that and concur with you wholeheartedly.
Mm.
So I think that's all we have time for today. It's always good to see you and talk to you about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jessica,
Thank
for being on Kai's
you.
Corner.
Kai's Corner. KK.
Yeah.